Not getting shot. So we're going to talk about today on Gunfighter Life. If you don't want to get shot, maybe stay tuned and pay attention. Maybe bust out a notebook. Because that's what we're going to talk about today. Avoiding getting shot here on Gunfighter Life. I've talked about aspects of this before, cover, concealment, body armor, but let's just kind of talk about it in a generality today. So welcome to Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about guns, gunfighting, tactics, ballistics, all manner of things, the right way with Almighty God at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. I'm going to forego the normal longer bio and put in a real short one. Private contractor, competition shooter, lifelong hunter, guide. Blessed by God that He got me through all those things so I could share this firsthand training, knowledge, experience with you to serve you today. How's that for celerity? Also, sadly, germane to today's topic, I have been shot. And depending on how you count that, like a direct hit, do you count ricochets? Do you count shrapnel? Do you count gear getting hit? But I can check those boxes. By God's grace, I'm still here breathing to tell you about it. So let me tell you a little bit about how to not get shot. Because if you didn't know, let me let you in on a little gunfighter secret here. Getting shot sucks. Probably don't want to get shot, in case you were wondering. All right, so let's talk about number one, avoidance, right? And this, sometimes you have to, right? I believe it's our responsibility as men, as alpha males, as gunfighters to stand up to protect those around us. Protect and provide for those around us. That might mean you put yourself in some dangerous situations. I'm not talking about that kind of avoidance. I'm talking about not being stupid. Using some strategy, right? Don't go to stupid places and do stupid things for stupid reasons. Probably avoid a lot of situations where you might need a gun. And there are many situations where guns are called for. Ego, bravado, machismo are not those situations, right? I've talked about use of deadly force in an entire episode, but, right, no, you should have a good moral compass, and that doesn't come from me, and it should not come from me. It should come from God, right? The Bible says when you can kill people and when you cannot. You shall not murder. If man sheds man's blood, by man his blood shall be shed. If the thief is found breaking in and he is struck so that he dies, there shall be no guilt for his bloodshed. And many more, right? You want to know about that? I mean, the whole Bible from Genesis to Revelation is one continuous book. You should read that if you want to learn more about what God, the author and creator and sustainer of the heavens and the earth, has to say about that. You probably want to do a more narrow focus if you want to learn about that from Exodus chapter 20, which is giving of the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai to Moses, up into, let's say, Deuteronomy 28, which is Deuteronomy stands for the law again. So, not a very big chunk of the Bible, but really important if you want to understand God's rules for us and how to live. So that should dictate what situations call for you to be in those situations or not. And sometimes you can't avoid them. But if you can't avoid them, avoidance is a big deal. What's better cover and concealment than not actually being anywhere nearby, right? Not actually being in that location. That's pretty good cover and concealment. With that said, if you are in that location, cover and concealment are important. Cover stops bullets. Concealment hides you. Cover, concealment. Now, it's a gray area. It's not black and white. Some things are absolutely cover for most common small arms calibers, and some things are just concealment. Some things are a gray area, an interior wall in a house. Mostly concealment, but if they hit, a 2x4, a stud, that's cover. But you get what I'm saying there. It's a gray area. It's fluid. It's not as black and white unless you're like laid down prone behind railroad tracks and you're using those big, thick beams as cover. That's pretty good cover for just about any civilian encountered small arm. If you're talking about a car, what are we talking about? Are we talking about A pillar, B pillar, which is You should look that up if you don't know what that means, but what protects the car from rolling over, that's pretty good cover. Most of the rest of the car is more like concealment, but it may stop a bullet at the right angle if it hits the right place, right? A car door may be cover if it hits the door lock mechanism. It may just be concealment if it just hits the sheet metal, because most common calibers will go through sheet metal, like a hot knife going through butter. So, cover and or concealment. Obviously, if you have a choice, pick cover. Cover is better. It also will hide you, but also, in almost every circumstance, unless you're hiding behind bulletproof glass, it will do what concealment does, but also stop bullets. So, that's good. And cover and concealment is not always the right answer. Sometimes you want to get hits on target as fast as possible. Right? If a guy's running at you with a knife, probably get your gun out and get hits on target as fast as possible. However, maybe you're at a low ready or a high ready in some tactical situation, and you're assessing the situation. While you're assessing the situation to figure out whether it's a shoot or no shoot scenario, move to cover. Move to concealment if you don't have cover. Right? That's a good thing. And you'll often see this, especially with people that aren't trained otherwise. When they get behind cover, they want to hug up onto it. I guess that's like a natural reaction, like they're up on the cover like a teddy bear, like it's going to protect them. But cover is actually more beneficial to you if you're farther away from it. A good rule of thumb is if you're running to cover, if you can touch it, you're too close. Now, there's exceptions if you're, in a really tight confined spaces, but in general, if you're running up on cover hard, you want to, even if you run up to it and you can't stop in time and you hit it, push back off of it. If you can touch it, you're probably too close. Double arms distance if you can get it, maybe even better. Because when bullets hit stuff, they can oftentimes create debris. And even if that debris is not fatal, a bunch of brick dust in your eyes, probably not good in a gunfight. Also, if you're talking about that gray area between cover and concealment, a lot of times when bullets hit things, they will start to tumble, they will start to shed velocity rather rapidly. The more distance you get, the better that is for you, because that velocity is going to be shed even more when it comes in contact with you, which is a good thing. Also, gunfighting, especially in any environment, but especially in urban environments, CQB type environments, working angles, it's a thinking man's game, and you get a lot more. Again, it may depend if it's a small room or something like that, but you can often work more angles if you're farther away from the cover. And that's situationally dependent, but those are some things to think about when you talk about cover and concealment. There's a psychological element here too that I've seen, that if somebody can't see that part of the target, oftentimes a person will not shoot. Even if way in the back of their thinking brain, they logically know that a 9mm bullet, let's just pick a caliber, 9mm is pretty common. They know that a 9mm will go through drywall like butter. But a lot of times if somebody's hiding behind drywall, they won't shoot, even if they know that's a person that needs to get shot, because psychologically they can't see it, so they won't shoot it. You can use that to your advantage, and you can also try and discount that. If you need to shoot somebody that's shooting at you from behind a door, let's say, shoot the door. Like if all you can see is their eyeball on the end of a gun and they're shooting at you, shoot the door. If you've got most modern calibers, it'll go through the door. So you got to train for that ahead of time, because in the moment, you probably won't. I don't know why, but people just seem to react that way. It's just something I've noticed, that a lot of times if somebody can't see something, like clear view of it, they won't shoot at it. And that's good most of the time. But again, if somebody's hiding behind a door, doing a mag dump on you, probably shoot the door. Unless you have other intel, like there's a little kid behind the door or something like that. But in most circumstances, you get what I'm saying. You know what works really well in lieu of cover and concealment? Movement. What is easier? Hitting a moving target or a stationary target? I'm not really a betting man, but if I said, I bet you $1,000 that you can't hit this sporting clay with a shotgun at, 10 yards. Option 1, you can put it on the ground and shoot it stationary. Or option 2, you can fling it out of a thrower into the air. Which one would you rather shoot at? The stationary target, right? No brainer. The stationary target's easier to hit. Do you want to get hit? Do you want to get shot? Maybe don't be a stationary target. Movement, even a little bit of movement. One step left, one step right. popping in or out. Like if you're using cover, just as an example to tie both in, don't just hang your head out and look around. Do a quick peek and go back. And when you pop your head out, peek somewhere else, higher, lower, the other side of a barricade, the other side of cover. You get what I'm saying, right? Movement. Don't just stick your head out. That's a stationary target. Pop your head out and pop it back. So even if they see your head, it's a moving target. If you have no cover or concealment, still move. And this is like, you should be confident, hopefully, in shooting on the move. Shooting while moving, shooting and then moving, moving then shooting. These are core skills, right? These are like, not gunfighting 101, but it's like gunfighting 102. It's not the basics. Like the basics are like stance, grip, sight alignment, sight picture, trigger control, follow through, natural point of aim. But 102 is, shoot on the move. Shoot while moving. Shoot and then move. Move and then shoot. Getting into and out of positions. Taking a shot. Sprinting. Stopping. Taking a shot. Shooting while moving. These are important skills. Again, because you want to be a moving target. Right? That again, just kind of a no-brainer. Not all the time. But in a lot of cases, if you're going to do a reload, move to cover or concealment. And if you don't have cover or concealment, be moving while you're reloading, right? A basic reload, a speed reload, a tactical reload, that's, again, pretty basic skill. Doing it on the move, doing it while sprinting without having to look at it, 102, 103 level type stuff. Probably get on that if you don't want to get shot. Movement, either to cover or concealment, or movement as a stand-in for cover or concealment. Not as good, but it's better than nothing. Again, it's harder to shoot a moving target than a stationary target. On the flip side of that, what should you probably do, knowing that people move? You should probably practice shooting at moving targets with your handgun, with whatever your go-to truck gun is, right? Probably practice shooting at moving targets. That might be a skill you might want to work on, going to the flip side of that. Another thing you can use, lighting. Lighting as a form of concealment, hide in the dark, or lighting as a way to blind your adversary in order to maneuver on him or get shots off. I'm not a big fan of these fancy flashlights with the super mega ultra power of the sun lumen 5000 with the strobe and the mega strobe and the pulsating SOS signal. I like a simple flashlight with a simple button on the back, on off. If you have a simple button on the back and you want to strobe it, guess what you do? You just tap on the back. But it kind of stinks when you don't want strobe when you hit it in the strobe. That's just me. If you want a strobe one and you're actually going to train with it and figure out exactly what setting it's going to be on when you need it to strobe or whatever, go ahead. But to me, simpler is usually better, especially if you're getting shot at. The less I got to think about, the better. But incorporating these, right? Shining a flashlight in somebody's face, then turning the flashlight off and then moving because it's dark. And then, once your sights are on target, maybe you turn the flashlight on again to get your shot off. Incorporating lots of different things. If you can turn your flashlight on, identify a threat, turn the flashlight off, and move to cover, peek your head out. After your sights are on target, quick shot of the flashlight to confirm that person's armed or dangerous. Take the shot, turn the flashlight off, and move again. Incorporating these things. But lighting as a form of defense on not getting shot. Don't underestimate that. A lot of shootings go down at night. Right? It gets dark at the end of every day, or the beginning of every day, or it gets dark at the beginning of a day if you're a biblical literalist. And there was an evening and there was a morning on the first day. Evening, sunset, denotes the start of a day biblically. But either way, every day you can plan on it getting dark. It's a pretty safe bet. So know how to use that to your advantage. You can also use this to your advantage. This is kind of off topic, and you probably aren't going to be able to set up the, let's call it the arena this way. Although you may, if like when I was a commander of a tactical team and I was in charge of the AO and setting up different things, if you have designated marksmen or something like that, using the sun to your advantage. But I'm going to liken it to hunting. If I'm trying to stalk up on an animal and I can do it, I got to think about wind, which you generally don't have to think of about people unless you really smell bad. But lighting, right? If I'm stalking up on an animal, I want when they look at me, the sun to be shining in their eyes. And I want it to be at my back, so it aids me in seeing them and it hinders them from seeing me. You can, in certain applications, in certain instances, use that to your advantage. Are you using cover and concealment inside a room? Right? Are there lit areas and shadowy areas? Probably don't go through the lit areas so they can see you. It's just a real easy example of that. Next, we're going to talk about wearing your own cover. This is body armor. I've done whole episodes on body armor, but you got two main kinds. We've got 4 kinds, but let's bifurcate into 2 categories and then 2 more categories. Let's bifurcate into overt and covert. Covert meaning like underneath your shirt, hidden body armor. Traditionally, this is like the cop vest, which everybody can look at them and pretty much tell they're wearing a vest. But you get what I'm saying. It's not flashing a neon sign saying, I have body armor. That would be overt, and that would be like your more modern plate carriers, your Marine Corps Army kind of body armor, like a tactical Ninja Turtle. That would be overt. And underneath your shirt, underneath the hoodie, whatever, would be covert. Generally covert, not always, but generally that's soft armor. And generally overt is hard armor. So that's the next bifurcation, soft armor and hard armor. There's a lot of new technology in body armor, but traditionally, historically, hard plates, sappy plates, steel plates, those are your hard armor. And then you have your soft armor, which is typically Kevlar. There's other stuff. There's like carbon fiber nanotubes and stuff like that. That is pretty cool technology that I have used. It's pretty awesome. But traditionally, you're talking like soft Kevlar panels or hard body armor panels. You can use both. You could mix and match, right? You could have like a more broad Kevlar panel with a smaller trauma plate to stop higher calibers. And I'm not going to get into all the like NIJ ratings for body armor and all that. Use the body armor appropriate for what you're trying to do. Obviously, unless you get into some crazy expensive technology, for heavier, bigger calibers like rifle calibers, you're going to wear heavier armor. And that's a trade-off, right? Because I talked about movement. I don't care how fast you are at sprinting. I don't care how fast you are at running. I don't know how much ground you can cover. I don't care if you're an ultra-marathon runner. If I put weight on you, you can run less fast for less long. That's how that works, right? So it's not just a free lunch. It's not like, ooh, I've got body armor now, I'm invincible. I don't play video games, but it's not like a video game where like click and you have body armor now. Wearing body armor just is bad. It's just a horrible time. But it might be better than getting shot. So it's not a free lunch, but you got to weigh it. And that's kind of like wearing your own cover, bringing your own cover with you. Is body armor right for you? You have to answer that question. You kind of have to weigh the pros and cons on that. Day-to-day, concealed carrier, probably not. But maybe you want to have some in your car in case something goes down. When you grab your truck gun, you grab your plate carrier. You do you. You analyze that for yourself. I don't know your situation. But body armor is a way to not get shot. Or even if you get shot, a way to not have it go into you. And I'm going to close this fairly somberly. But if you do get shot, don't give up, right? Don't give up. If that person that shot you is still trying to do the thing to kill you, you still need to keep fighting. I can articulate this better. A lot of times when somebody gets shot, it's not fatal. If you get shot, odds are it's probably not fatal, especially with a handgun. The majority of handgun wounds are not fatal. You should plan ahead of time. If you get shot, you're going to keep fighting. If you're conscious, you're fighting, unless there's some other circumstance, like the person is no longer a danger, then maybe you want to throw on a tourniquet or something. But if you're conscious, you should do whatever you can to get out of that situation. So don't give up if you do happen to get shot. I don't want to get too far into this, but if you carry a gun, probably should carry a tourniquet. Yes, you can make a tourniquet. I've done it in real life. You can make an ad hoc tourniquet. And after I had to do that, guess what I carry now all the time? A tourniquet, because it's way better to have a purpose-built tourniquet. So if you're going to carry a gun, compared to the weight and heft of a gun, tourniquets aren't that big and heavy. A cat is kind of the standard. If you have tactical gear, probably a cat. But for EDC, it's a bit big and bulky. You might want to consider something else and train with it. A rat, a SWAT T, something like that. This is not the episode for that. See the March algorithm episode if you care about that. That one should be on Alpha Male Podcast, but the March algorithm, emergency medical training and stuff like that. But consider carrying a tourniquet and having training, like knowing how to use a tourniquet, knowing that it goes high and tight, just basic stuff, knowing how to use pressure to stop bleeding. But if you do get shot, don't give up, and know how to render aid if you or somebody else gets shot. But try not to get shot. That's the main focus of today's episode. And while it's really horrible to get shot, I guess I am glad that I can share real world training and experience with you. If you don't know a little backstory on this podcast, one of the reasons I started the podcast was because there's a lot of gun stuff out there. There's a lot of gun tubers out there like shooting watermelons and doing all kinds of stuff. And that's fine. If you like gun entertainment, that's great. But a lot of people talking a lot without a lot of real world firsthand experience. And again, that's totally, if you want that, that's great. But I thought there was a lack of actual real world firsthand experience from guys that have been there and done that. That's one of the reasons I started the podcast. God's blessed me to get through a lot of stuff, not because I'm awesome or special or bigger or stronger, because God blessed me and has given me grace far disproportional to what I deserve. I deserve to be dead many times over, but God has chosen to give me life. And blessings are meant to be shared. If I can share my training and experience with you, that's what I want to do, and that's why I started the podcast. If you want to contribute to this podcast, this message, this episode, and hopefully many more, God willing, in the future, consider becoming a patron. Patrons get some cool insider-only content, but if you valued this episode, if you got anything out of it, consider becoming a patron. If you want to support, if you want to help, consider becoming a patron. Patreon link in the show notes. All the other buzzwords too. Small business, American, veteran-owned, gluten-free, organic. No dolphins were harmed in the making of this podcast, at least not directly. Right, you get it. But anyway, if you want to become a patron, hit the Patreon link. There's a lot of cool insider stuff there just for patrons. There's some stuff on the Patreon page too that's open to the public if you just want to check it out. Anyway, with that, thanks guys. Your tactical tip of the day. Feels like today's episode was a lot of tactical tips. Here's something to consider when you're looking at body armor, especially if we're talking about the overt outside body armor. Don't just what's uber tactical, what comes in black multicam. Maybe think about what can be grabbed and dragged. If you get shot, even if you get shot in your body armor, you may, break a rib, cough up some blood. You may need to get dragged. If you get shot somewhere other than your body armor, your femoral artery, your brachial artery, something like that, you may need to get dragged. So think about if somebody needs to drag me, not only does this Gucci tactical black multicam look super cool, but can somebody drag me out of a room? A lot of them will have dedicated handles on the back that were designed to drag somebody. If you look like the Marine Corps issue body armor, they're designed for dragging somebody. If you look at, the 511 has a lot of plate carriers, but one of the ones that we ran on the team, it was designed to have a pull out thing where you can literally drag somebody. You could probably throw it on a truck hitch and drag them if you needed to. Which might hurt a lot, but probably good if you needed to extricate from a situation. Deal with the rug burn later. But anyway, think about that. That's another consideration on body armor that people often don't think about. What looks cool? But also, if I need to get dragged, does this plate carrier help with that? Anyway, something to consider. With that, your tactical verse of the day. This is part of Psalm 91. I shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor the destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at my side, 10,000 at my right hand, but it shall not come near me. Thanks. Have a blessed day.